let me tell you an incredible story about how a 100-year-old art form, stop-motion animation, got completely turned on its head by modern technology. And it's all told through the journey of one artist who went from absolutely hating computers to winning an Oscar because of them. But before we even get into the tech, let me ask you something. What if I told you the real magic of animation isn't just happening on a screen, but it's actually a feature that's already built right into your own biology? You see, the answer all comes down to a simple trick of the eye, a little kind of weird quirk in how we see the world that makes everything from cartoons to blockbuster movies even possible. It's all because of this tiny delay. It's like a split-second visual echo in our eyes that lets our brain connect a whole series of still pictures and see them as one smooth, continuous motion. And this whole phenomenon, it has a name: persistence of vision. And believe it or not, this was the exact topic that a 12-year-old Brian McLean was forced to do for his 6th grade science fair. He actually wanted to do his project on claymation, but his dad made him focus on the science behind it first. They had no idea this little school project would end up sparking a lifelong passion. So after reluctantly slogging through the science, Brian just fell head over heels in love with the art. He was totally captivated by the magic of stop-motion classics, just trying to figure out how these geniuses brought inanimate objects to life, one painstaking frame at a time. But then, as Brian started his career after college, his love for physical, hands-on art ran smack into a world that was going digital, fast, and it was a world he really wanted no part of. I mean, when he graduated, the guy could barely send an email. You know, like a lot of artists, he was just way more comfortable with physical tools than digital ones. So he resisted computers, he bounced from job to job, his career path was anything but a straight line. And then he saw something that changed everything. While working at a design school, he saw a 3D printer for the first time. And for him, this wasn't just some machine, it was a bridge. It finally made the digital world, this intimidating, abstract thing, into something tangible he could actually hold in his hands. So how does this thing even work? Well, think of a CAT scan, but in reverse. You take a digital 3D model, and the computer digitally slices it into thousands of flat 2D images. Then, just like your inkjet printer at home, a machine sprays down a super thin layer of liquid resin, and a UV light zaps it, hardening it instantly. It just builds a physical object, one slice at a time. For centuries, art and manufacturing had this fundamental trade-off. You could either make something by hand, which was unique but super slow, or you could mass produce it, which was fast, but every single item was identical. Brian realized that 3D printing completely shattered that rule. All of a sudden, you could have the speed of mass production, but every single object could still be totally unique. And that one realization, it led to a truly groundbreaking idea. One that would let Brian and the team at Leica Animation Studios completely reinvent how they create their characters' performances. The idea was so simple, it was brilliant. Take this century-old technique called replacement animation. That's where you swap out parts of a puppet for each frame and mash it up with cutting-edge 3D printing. They would animate a character's face on a computer, but instead of just hitting render to make a video, they would print thousands of physical faces to snap right onto the puppet. Now, this journey was not easy. For their first film, Coraline, they had to hand-paint every single printed face. Later, they tried an early color printer that used powder and glue, but they're based in rainy Portland, Oregon, and the humidity would literally change the size and color of the prints from summer to winter. It was a mess. But they just kept innovating, and they eventually reached a scale that it's just hard to even wrap your head around. For their film Missing Link, they printed 106,000 unique facial expressions. That actually earned them a Guinness World Record. The breakthrough that made all this possible was a technology called voxel printing. Okay, we all know what a pixel is, right? That tiny little 2D dot of color on a screen. Well, a voxel is just a 3D pixel. It's a microscopic cube of material, and there are over 300 million of them packed into a single cubic inch. To really get how this works, think of a pointillist painting. You know, when you're up close, all you see are thousands of individual dots of pure color. But when you step back, your eye blends them all together. Voxel printing does the exact same thing, just arranging these microscopic 3D dots of different colored resins to create the illusion of perfectly mixed colors and materials. And this level of control opened up possibilities that went way, way beyond the movie studio. In fact, the same technology that was pioneered to make puppets talk is now helping surgeons save lives. Using voxel printing, surgeons can now take a patient's CAT scan data and print a perfect, ultra-realistic replica of their body parts. They can actually simulate the different textures of bone, tissue, and muscle. This lets them practice a really complex operation, like removing a tumor, on a perfect model before they ever even touch the actual patient. Leica even contributed to a research paper on this stuff. And all of this brings our story right back to where we started. We began with a 12-year-old science project on a simple trick of the eye. And now we've seen how technology uses that very same trick to bring still objects to life in the most incredible ways. Remember that persistence of vision? Well, to trick our brains into seeing motion, filmmakers have to show us 24 unique images, or frames, for every single second of film. That means for just 1 second of animation, a Leica animator needs 24 slightly different 3D printed faces. And to show how this works in real time, Leica built this incredible rig. It's basically a modern version of an old pre-film invention called a zoetrope. So as this thing spins, it moves a sequence of 3D printed puppets past a camera. At slow speeds, you just see individual models whipping by. But once it hits that magic speed of 24 frames per second, your brain fills in the gaps, and suddenly, a series of still objects bursts into life. And that's really the ultimate takeaway from Brian's whole journey. Creativity isn't just about the final thing you make. It's about being brave enough to completely reinvent how you make it. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other impossible art is out there just waiting for the right tool to be invented?